Hey guys, it's Troy with DIY Home and Auto. Remember that little Toyota that I bought for my daughter? Yeah, so the window regulator went out in it on the front passenger side. I ordered the part to fix the window regulator so that the window will go up and down without falling off of its track, etc. And while we're in there, we're going to do a small upgrade as well. The speakers in that car are original and they are not very good. So, and all these parts I ordered from Amazon, so the links will be down below. Just got basically the cheapest 6.5s that were a name brand, JVC, something that I recognized. So these should be decent. They weren't very expensive at all. And then you also need, oh geez, let's package them inside of 15 different things. That's perfect. But to do a speaker modification in these old Corollas, you also need these little spacers. The speakers have somewhere to screw in, but it also gives it space so that the window will still go up and down without hitting the magnet if the magnet pokes out too far. Comes with the wiring harness for the original equipment, and then you don't have to do any wire splicing, etc. So be sure and check the links down below if you're doing a speaker set in an 03 through an 08 Toyota Corolla. The parts down below will work for that. But let's get the thing opened up and see what we're dealing with. So there's the window regulator. It comes with the motor as well, so that you can just remove the entire unit, plug it into the original plugs, and reconnect your window, and you're good to go. Now let's get the car ready for this as well. So the tools to remove the plastic lining in cars, that sort of thing, they're just made of nylon, whatever, so that you don't break anything. But you have to gently remove some of these plastic trim pieces in order to get to the screws that are underneath so that you can take the door panel off. So I'm going to get that far. There's actually two screws underneath the arm pad. I was pulling on it, and if it's not given like it should, that's your clue there's another screw. So there's 3 screws total, 1 behind the door latch and 2 underneath the armrest. And you have to take this little plastic piece off as well before the door panel will lift up and come out of the window. Little tweeter behind there, nice. Sprinkler just came on, that's perfect timing. I'm gonna go peek at the regulator that I ordered so I can see approximately which screws need to come out, because I haven't scoped that out yet. All things in the proper order. So it looks like there are 6 screws total, 4 on the part that's closest to the motor, and then 2 over here on the arm of it. So let's get those screws out. I also need to detach the window. I'm gonna take this little black shield thing out here as well, just so I can get my arm up in there and feel where the window disconnects from the arm. Wow, isn't that special? The clip's broken on the bottom of the window. Well, let's get this regulator out of there and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do. Well, there's the old one. Got it out. It is Toyota. That is original equipment for sure. This is the part that's broken. That's the bottom clip. These things screw into the actual regulator that goes up and down. That's supposed to be a circle like this one. So I'm gonna have to rig something. I'm not sure. Figure something out. We'll make it work. And I'm gonna get wet by the sprinklers. I gotta fix that problem. Problem solved. Sprinklers aren't going to get me anymore. We're getting wet over here. So now I'm just putting back in all the screws that were holding the original window regulator in so that it's in the right position, and then I've got to figure out how I'm going to attach that window to this new regulator. So when you saw me fighting it right there for a second, it was this little thing, it's got some tabs on it. I was able to get the one side in super easy, and then this one was just poking out just a little bit too far. So I started the bolt so that it was applying a little bit of pressure, and then used a screwdriver to push that in to where it clicked in to place where it goes. Had to fight it a little bit, got a little bit bloody, but that happens every time you're doing something inside of a door panel, it seems. All right, I'm gonna get the window switch hooked up to it and move it up and down. Just make sure that functionality wise it works. And then I've got to figure out what I'm gonna do bottom of that to hold it in place. It's too late in the day to go to a salvage yard, so that's not an option for me right this second. But I guess if all else fails, I can get the window so that it's in and up and then look for a piece of glass to replace it. Maybe I can use some JB Weld or something, get a little bit creative, get that thing on there. I don't know, let's get a little farther in this. I'm gonna do the speakers in this as well, so when I have it open, I'll probably start on that next. Oh, I have the window lock on so that it won't go up and down from the other side. Oh, you gotta plug power into the regulator before it'll do anything. I'm cute sometimes. Too big of a hurry to test it, I guess. There's that. Let's try the switch now. It's still locked, I guess. Oh, this can't be a dead on arrival. DOA. It's not working from the switch on the other side either. Well, I used my voltmeter to test and make sure that I have power going through the switch to the plug that goes to the regulator. So at this point, I need to pull the regulator out and see why it's not working. It might be a bad part. That happens sometimes. I don't like it, but it happens. So let's get that thing back out and see if there's something we can do to fix it. Sweet, works, goes up and down. Alright. Well, let's see what happens when we put it in with just one bolt holding it in place. So here's a closer look at the glass from that door. I pulled it out so that I could figure this out. Every time that I cinch up the bolt that holds that in, it just basically squeezes it out because there's nothing around it to hold it in place. This side holds tight, but if that side pops out, then the window tilts, and that's what caused the problem to begin with. I'm not even convinced that the window regulator itself was bad, but I already bought that part, so I'm going to use it. But I think that when the window just kind of got bound up a little bit, and it pulled hard enough that it broke that piece. So I'm going to try some JB Weld and see if I can manufacture just a bottom edge of a clip there. I think I'll use a flat washer on the one side to maintain where my hole goes for sure. And then, I don't know, we're going to try this and see what we can do. And then we'll report back on how this goes. What a mess. If all else fails, I can buy a new window piece. It doesn't look like it's very expensive. They made like 482 bazillion of these cars. No exaggeration. So there's no shortage of people who are building parts for these things, and I'm sure that I could probably go to a salvage yard and maybe find one as well. But I just don't have that kind of time, at least not today. So I'm going to try to do this just so I can get the thing buttoned up. If all else fails, I'll get it in the car and rolled up and just tell my daughter not to roll that window down again until I can get it resolved. But hopefully I can get something that'll work. Alright, so here's what I'm going to try. This is JB Weld steel stick. It's essentially a two-part. See if I can get this open so you can see inside here. Inside here, it's a two-part, so you cut off a little piece so that you know how much to have, and then you just basically knead it all together to get those two parts mixed together, and then it's a chemical process beyond that for it to harden. But it's pliable like Play-Doh, so you can kind of mold it to what you need. I've used this once before. You can see I just used a little sliver of it last time, so I'm just going to cut another piece off and see if I can mold something together. I can't remember the dry time on this. I'll read the instructions and report back, but I'm going to get this thing set and whatnot, and then we'll talk about it while it hardens up. So according to the rules, it has about a 3 to 5 minute working time where you can still, it's pliable enough to work with, and it hardens to full functionality in about 60 minutes, so about an hour. It does say, and I probably should have read this first, that you should clean the surface with like a degreaser, and I did not do that, so this may or may not stick all the way. If it doesn't, I'll clean it really well, sand that surface just to scuff it up a little bit, and then clean it again. Well, sand it to scuff it, clean it, and then try one more time. I'm pretty confident that this is going to work once I get it to actually adhere, stick to that. If all else fails, it buys me some time, but here's hoping it's a permanent fix. Alright, but in the meantime, let's move over and start working on those speakers. Links down below to all the stuff we used today. Alright, work smarter, not harder. Here we go. You want to be careful too, you don't want your bit to slip off and go into the cone and damage the new speaker. Alright, window regulator's in. We already knew that. Test our audio. We have static, people. We have more static. We have audio. Nice. Let's do the same thing to the other side. I've got to take that door panel off. You've already seen that process, so I won't show you that. But that's how you put new speakers in. Let's go check on our window, see if that thing has dried up enough to install. So it's only been about 20 minutes since we put this on, but it's already good and solid, and it seems to be sticking just fine. I got it wrapped all the way around both edges of it. I hope it doesn't change the alignment of the window too much, because this is the side that's supposed to be stuck to the window regulator itself. So in fact, I probably ought to file that back side down just a hair. I'm going to do that so it sits a little more flush. Back in a second. Yeah, so I just took a coarse rasp and a file bit to that edge and just flattened it out a little bit, and it's good and solid. It's holding on there real nice and tight. I'm very confident in this fix. So let's get this put back together. Before I put it in, I might pull it out and do that. It is mashing it a little bit, so I'm not going to get too crazy tight with it for now. I want to make sure it holds. Not too tight. Don't want to break that other one too. I think I am going to get some Loctite put on the back side of that, and then it doesn't matter if I cinch it down, it'll stay where I put it, and then it should just harden up over time and get more and more gooder. Loctite. So I'm just going to use some thread locker blue, just a little bit on the threads. That'll help hold it once it gets where it's going to be and when it dries. Boom! We're back in business. Door locks work. Hey, check it out. Window goes up and down. Fixed. And
order at oldnavy.com now.
hey, free plug for Old Navy. You're welcome. Just make sure your little tabs line up before you start smacking on stuff. Earthquake check. Nailed it. Same thing other side for the other speaker, and we're good to go. This is a done deal. Boom, it's done. 2 speakers as proof. The sun's still up. I did that fast. This whole project, I started this about, I want to say it's been an hour and 15 minutes since I started on this project, and that's including filming. You're welcome. But got the 2 speakers replaced, the 1 window regulator on the passenger side replaced, and I'm not convinced that this was the problem. I think that what happened was where the window attaches. In fact, you can see there was no screw in that. Whoop, shadow. There's grease in that hole. So there was no screw in that for a long time. There is now. I had to fix that, used that JB Weld stuff. In fact, JB Weld steel stick. These are the tools that you need for this job. You may or may not need a voltmeter, but it's nice to have. A cordless drill, you can do it with this, but that's faster. So do that, be smart. I almost said a 10-cent socket, but that costs a little more than 10 cents. A 10mm socket. Some of the nylon trim tools to get the trim pieces off. Phillips head, flathead, steel stick, thread locker. A new regulator, if you're doing a window regulator. Speakers, you'll need new speakers if you're gonna do speakers while you're doing this. If you're taking this whole thing apart to do a window regulator, and you still have your stock speakers, this upgrade alone is worth it. I'll leave a link down below to the speakers that I put in this thing. It was not very expensive. I mean, if you're on a budget, then there's no need to. One of those speakers was blown, so that was a problem. That's what we were fixing 2 with 1. You'll also need a battery for your camera because, well, I ran out of battery halfway through. But it's not that hard to do. 2008, it's actually, so like a 2003 through 2008 has the exact same configuration and setup, same parts, all of that. All of this stuff that we talked about today will work in a 2003 through 2008 Toyota Corolla. Piece of cake.